Hey, everybody, welcome to Ask a Trader for Thursday, July 25th, 2024. I hope you are all having a tremendous week this week, and let's jump into the markets and take a look at what's going on, what's happening, what's transpiring. A little crazy these last couple of days. Yesterday, especially, we'll take a look at that. If you have any questions, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'm going to make sure that I have this set up for you guys. So just go ahead and throw that in there. And any tickers that you'd like me to look at, I'll make sure that I take a look at them for you. Just go ahead and just drop that in there. And if not, if you just want to hang out and listen, that's cool too. We'll be trying to do this every week. And hopefully you get some value out of this, but let's not waste any time. Let's jump into it and take a look at what is happening in the broader markets. So let me pull up my my charts here, get over to TradingView, share the screen, and bang, share. There we go. All right. So here is the S&P 500, and everybody is talking about still this big old candle that came in yesterday on the SPX. And look, we had a gap down, and then the selling just continued, pushed all the way down here and got saved by that 50 simple moving average. A little tiny bit of buying came in, and then today you saw some buying come in, but then what happened? It all got erased basically. And with 57 minutes remaining before the market closes, there's not a whole lot going on right here. And, basically this candle just tells me that there's indecision in terms of what investors want to do. They kind of have their feet in both ends of the territory, because tomorrow we're going to get PCE. And remember, that's the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation. And if we pull up the economic calendar and we take a look here, here's PCE, core PCE month over month. And you can see that it's forecasted to come in at 0.1. The prior reading was 0.1. Then if you look at the core PCE price index year over year, it's forecasted to come in at 2.5 versus 2.6 previous. The index month over month, it's expected to come in at 0.1, so a slight uptick from it being at 0 last time. And then the price index year over year down 0.1 from 2.6 prior. We will also get personal income month over month, which is going to be down, and then personal spending, which will be up a tick. Tomorrow we'll also get Michigan consumer sentiment, but everybody is waiting for this to see where PCE comes in, because right now the market is pricing in the first rate cut in September. And everybody think that that's going to happen, but what we're getting right now is a correction, right? We're getting a correction. If we just take a look at what's happening here with the S&P 500 and just measure this from all-time highs down to where it dropped to today, it stopped at about 4.95%. A healthy correction is anywhere from 5 to 10%, and it can be even more than that. And if you go back to the last time the SPX corrected was in April, when we had the Iran-Israel conflict, we had a correction of about 5.9%. We haven't had a 10% correction yet. And, this thing could drop more. Let's say that PCE doesn't come in hot tomorrow. If you measure this out, 10%, I mean, that's well below the 100 SMA on the daily. That would bring us down to 10%, 5103. I don't think that's likely. I think if we do have more selling, that 100 would be the ideal bouncing spot. And quite honestly, this could be all the selling for this dip. And we could see buyers come in tomorrow if PCE is in fact cool, because everybody is waiting on these interest rate cuts. And so you can see here, I have drawn out kind of what I was expecting to transpire here. And I do think we have one little bit more of a bounce before we do start to come down and truly correct. And I have us correcting down into that 200. but I think we've got one more push higher to go before that happens. And then before we go even higher before the year's up. But we do need a 10% plus correction. We haven't had one. I mean, if you just go back and look how we have moved since from last October, I mean, that April pullback was all we had. So there's definitely room for this to come down. But the fact that all that buying from today was wiped out is really weak for the bulls. So we'll see how this closes. I mean, this could definitely change. At one point, this was a hammer earlier in the day, but the bulls have stepped in. But we still have time before everything closes, so we'll have to see. If we take a look at the QQQ, now this thing did correct more than the SPX. If we take it down from all-time highs to the low it made today, 9.54%, almost 10%. And that is a bigger correction than what it had in April. And you could see that it almost hit that 100 SMA with that wick. It hit off that EMA and it did bounce. Again, we're getting a little bit of selling coming in here. I'd like to see some more buying come in before the close. But that's a pretty healthy correction on the QQQ. Not to say that it can't come down more. If you go back to the last significant correction that the QQQ had from last August in through October, that was an 11.73% correction over time. So, you know, if we were to come down 11.73%, that would take us below that 100. That would be around 444. We'll see if that happens. Not, you know, this could be it. Again, everything is going to depend on PCE tomorrow. And then let's take a look at small caps, IWM, Russell 2000. So the rotation, which I talked about in this week's Traders podcast, a rotation is happening right now where investors are rotating their money out of the large cap stocks, mega caps, into the smaller caps, your more risky stocks. And you could see that it's had this great push that started on the 10th of July, and it hit a recent high of 226.67. And you could see since then, it's just been moving sideways. And there's a clear resistance here between that 226 area down to 221. And it's going to take something really strong. Oh, I don't know, like PCE to push up above this. So if you get cool PCE that comes in tomorrow, this will get taken out. I would not be surprised to see a $10, $15 move here if that would happen. So let's say that we close here at 221 right now, and we have some really cool PCE comes in tomorrow. By the end of the day tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see this at 236. So keep an eye on that because that rotation will happen even more. Again, IWM is super sensitive to rate cuts. And I've been on the record saying I think that we're going to get a surprise rate cut next week because we have the FOMC meeting the 30th and 31st. Powell speaks on the 31st. So just keep an eye on that. Then if you just go through here, take a look. We'll take a look at some key tickers. Here's Tesla. Gap down on earnings. I was wrong on my call. I expected it to gap up to 303. And my bear case here was that it would, if it was going to gap down, that it would come down and retest that 50 SMA on the weekly, which it almost did, and potentially hit a low of 204. That didn't happen. It's kind of hanging tight, but notice how you have an inside candle forming here today. So you could get an explosive move here on Tesla. What it's going to need to do, it's got to break back above this mother of all trend lines here. If it does get back above that, maybe it fills this gap that it made down on earnings. That would be really strong for the stock. And I think that 300 would be back on the table, but we'll see what's going to happen here tomorrow. Tomorrow's a really, really big day. If you take a look at some of these other big boys, Microsoft, I mean, you're going to see the same thing here. All-time high down to the low that it made today, almost an 11% correction down below that 100 SMA. If you take a look at NVIDIA, this thing has corrected as well from its all-time high down to the low that it made today, 106.05. I know a lot of traders who bought some NVIDIA today. Good for you guys. It's down into my buy area. That's a 24% correction. If you go take a look at Amazon, same kind of thing. You're seeing all this big tech coming down. There's a 12% correction. Nice hammer coming in on Amazon, but that 100 SMA is sitting right above that. So it's going to have to fight like hell to get above that. Meta, same thing, all-time high down to this low today, 18% correction. We came down and filled that gap again, that when it gapped down on earnings. So this thing is beat up pretty good. Nice hammer coming in today, almost down here near the 200. Earnings coming up around the corner. What else can we take a look at? Apple. Again, you got a nice little pullback here. Let's measure this down from all-time high, almost 10%. So yeah, and then Bitcoin was making a nice little push and got rejected here a little bit. We hit a recent high around 68,000 on Monday, and then this pulled back about 7.26%. But remember, this thing had a significant correction that started at the beginning of June, came down, bottomed out 25%, and then started coming back up higher. So maybe this was a little bit of a precursor for what we were going to see in equities and what we're seeing now. So definitely going to keep an eye on that to see if stocks are following suit, and then we see a push out of this. So really all eyes are on PCE tomorrow and what's going to happen. And so, right now, like I said, the bulls tried to show up today, but they didn't. We have come down quite a bit, but if the data does come in hot tomorrow, I think that 100 is definitely on the table for the S&P. I wouldn't be surprised to see a really big candle down there. And then at that point, does it bounce? Who knows? I mean, that's quite a bit of selling since it hit all-time highs, and then the Qs, already corrected 10%, so it can come down more. We'll see. So a lot of fun tomorrow. Really fast too. Let's just take a look at the VIX. This is the volatility index. You can see that this is up. The last time that it was this high was the last correction, and you can see that this thing peaked out on the 19th of April. So we're getting back up into that range, but this will eventually come down. There's just a lot of uncertainty right now. So that's what we're looking at. Tomorrow's going to be fun. Before we jump off here, any tickers that you guys want me to take a look at, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And if not, I won't keep you around. Any tickers, any questions that you have about the markets that I could answer for you? Anything. That's what I'm here for. Nothing? All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Ask a Trader. We will be back here again live next week. Bring your charts, your questions, or just come hang out and listen to me talk about the markets. And make sure you check out this week's episode of the Traders Podcast. If you're interested in one-on-one trading coaching, let me know. I do that through my company, Courage Pays Better Than Fear Trading. And I will see you back here next week for another episode, another edition of Ask a Trader Live. Oh, I got a question coming. Oh, hey, thank you, Heather. I appreciate you guys. All right. I thought I was getting a question, but I got to thank you. I'll take a thank you, though. All right, guys, have a great one. I'll see you next week. Take care.